James Gunn gave us Peacemaker Season 2 his favorite thing he's ever made, and honestly, that might be the problem. Because while John Cena is still killing it as the world's most violent Boy Scout, this season might have gone full Rob Zombie casting his wife mode. But here's the thing, there's a multiverse twist, a shocking redemption arc, and one emotional moment that almost saves the whole thing. We'll get to that later because, trust me, it's wild. Hey everyone, I'm Wes from Atomic Cult Media, where we dive into the strange, chaotic, and occasionally disappointing corners of pop culture. Season 2 picks up right after Superman 2025. Peacemaker's trying to atone for killing his dad and ends up discovering a multiverse portal that leads to an alternate dimension. And here's where it gets nuts. In this version, his dad isn't a racist supervillain, he's a beloved superhero. We're officially in DC's multiverse of sad dads. But before you think it's all redemption arcs and father-son hugs, hang on. Peacemaker's dad isn't exactly dead. The premise is interesting. Imagine a world where Augie Smith is a good guy and Peacemaker's family is basically a patriotic Justice League parody. It should have been gold, but the pacing, slower than eagerly trying to open a jar of pickles. Of course, John Cena returns as the murder-happy patriot himself, balancing macho insanity with emotional breakdowns over a bald eagle. And Cena's still one of the best parts of the series, equal part funny and tragic. Jennifer Holland is back as Harcourt, Gunn's muse, wife, and emotional centerpiece of the show. She gives a solid performance, and the chemistry is fine. It's just, I'll go into the romance and my problems with it later. Daniel Brooks as Adebayo is still excellent. Freddie Stroma as Vigilante remains a chaotic gem, and Frank Grillo brings perfect angry dad energy to Rick Flagg Sr. But here's where things get weird. Robert Patrick returns as Blue Dragon, the heroic alternate version of White Dragon. And he's weirdly wholesome until he's not, which makes episode 7 probably the best episode in this season. Now I've got to shout out Tim Meadows as Langston Fleury, easily one of the best new DCU characters. But Gunn still knows how to load his show with Easter eggs. The quantum unfolding chamber, straight out of Philip K. Dick's The Man in the High Castle. The Justice Gang replacing the Justice League. That's, his subtle way of, forget the Snyderverse ever happened. I mean, thematically, the show is about guilt, legacy, whether you can actually make peace with your past. It's heavy stuff, but then Gunn cuts into another 80s rock montage, and suddenly it feels like we're watching outtake reel from Suicide Squad. Alright, positives first. Like I said before, Gunn does pull off a smooth DCU handoff. I thought it was kind of funny. They just retconned the hell out of season 1 and kind of inserting the Justice Gang over the Justice League from the first season. I think this show had great performances all around, and I'm especially impressed by John Cena and Jennifer Holland. Even though I don't care for how much of their romance is the center of this season, they do give great performances, and especially one performance where they confront each other about their emotions to each other. Again, I think their plot really dragged this season down for me. Even though, like, most of the stuff, the twist was well choreographed through the whole season, I thought episode 7 was excellent. It threw me for a loop. The whole twist with Augie, Blue Dragon, kind of, he's not a Nazi in this, like, world where the Nazis won. He's just living in a world trying to do the best he can. I thought that was an excellent twist, and then they turn around and fucking kill him. And everything that happened with his brother and then the 11th Street kids, like, just looking like supervillains, honestly. I thought that was a great twist, which they didn't really capitalize on later. And shout out to Tim Meadows, great addition to the cast. I always love seeing Tim Meadows, and I'm looking forward to seeing him in Man of Tomorrow, which he's been officially cast in. If you're enjoying this video, maybe hit like and subscribe to the channel. Check out my other reviews in the playlist below. And if you're on mobile, hit that hype button. It really helps boost small channels like this. Now, the not so great. I know a lot of people were loving this season. Every video I watched and podcast covering this seemed everyone loved it. And I was kind of underwhelmed because we saw like the Nazi twist coming far ahead. I'm like, okay, when is this revelation happening in the show? And they waited until the 6th episode of an 8-episode season. It really just felt like it was spinning its wheels. The story was just completely uneven. It felt like it took an entire season just to get started. We ended up on Earth X like late in the season, and that I think is the most interesting part of the show. Only to spend like an episode and a half there. And I think the focus on the romance of Harcourt and Peacemaker is the biggest detractor for me. I don't care for either of these characters or their relationship. Even though I thought their scenes together and one scene in particular was great, I just don't care for the relationship. Like, I'm not invested in this. And that's what took up most of this season. And I hate to be that guy, but it does really seem like Gunn is using this show to sort of put his wife front and center. You know, she's a talented actress and everything, but man, I'm getting like strong Rob Zombie casting Sherry Moon energy with that. And Peacemaker being like a lovesick puppy most of this season just didn't feel right. And there seemed to be a lot of stuff they set up that had little to no payoff. Rick Flagg Jr. shows up in the alternate dimension in Earth X, and he shows up for like a couple of scenes, and that's it. You don't ever hear anything from him. And with Rick Flagg Sr. looking for revenge of the death of his son from the Suicide Squad, and they just drop it. Like, I figured they would probably interact in some way, but no. And with Augie dying and they almost killing Keith, Peacemaker's brother, on Earth X, and it shows that he lives, but there's no follow-up to it. Like, I'm sure he'll show up in some movie or something down the road, even though it doesn't seem like a Peacemaker Season 3 is happening. But I don't know, it's like they set up all this stuff and like nothing happened with it, and we're not getting another season. I'm like, what? Just confused from a narrative's perspective. And I really liked the first season. I'd probably give it like a 4 out of 5. But one problem I had with the first season is the improv. I'm not a fan of improv, and that's probably a me thing. I found it a bit distracting and kind of cringy a lot of the times in the first season, and this season's no different. I think they double down on improv. The only segments of improv that I did like was from Steve Agee and Tim Meadows. And even Steve Agee was kind of like cringy there at the end with the improv, and you know, I think they just leaned way too hard into it. And the finale, a lot of people did not like this finale, and I'm with them. It seemed like it was spinning its wheels. We get a couple of really solid episodes, and then we get that finale, which is basically just a setup for Man of Tomorrow. It doesn't capitalize on the story they were telling for 7 episodes. It's just a mishmash of different stuff that doesn't really come together, with music videos dispersed throughout. I don't know, it was just a kind of a confusing mess. But it looks like they're introducing Salvation, and apparently that's where Darkseid trades his parademons. So they might be setting up Darkseid, but maybe Brainiac instead, because it seems like Man of Tomorrow is going to be a Brainiac movie, which I hope. I want to see a live-action Brainiac. Anyway, this isn't an Easter egg video. I don't want to compete with all these other Easter egg videos, so I'm still looking forward to Man of Tomorrow. So overall, I'm giving Peacemaker Season 2 a 2.5 out of 5. I think there's like parts of brilliance in this, with just the wheels spinning a little too much and not giving enough for us to chew on. Focusing solely on this romance angle with Harcourt and Peacemaker, I feel like really dragged the show down. This is the first dud Gunn has made in the DCU so far, in my opinion, and I hope this is a one-off. He says this is his favorite thing he's made, but I feel like he needs restraint when it comes to these projects that he makes. Yeah, I loved his Superman. It's probably one of my favorite movies of the year, but this was such a disappointment. I'm kind of glad we're not getting a season 3. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing these characters pop up in other projects, but I don't need more Harcourt and Peacemaker fucking puppy love. I mean, I enjoyed the first season quite a bit, and it just, like I said, spinning its wheels, and you know, it rushes through like the most interesting parts and ends with music videos and rush storylines. But I toss it to you. What did you think of Peacemaker Season 2? Was it Gunn being bold or Gunn being indulgent? And what do you think of the hints they're dropping for Man of Tomorrow at the end? Drop your thoughts below. I'll be reading and replying to all of them. Click here to check out my Superman 2025 review. Click here to subscribe. We also just started memberships on the channel, and we have our Patreon down right here. And maybe hit the like button, and I'll see you later. Bye.